Hello, I'm Sam Norman and you're watching Book Zone, and I'm going to be speaking to Justin Cartwright, who's the author of The Song Before It's Sung, which is published by Bloomsbury. Justin, give me a little bit of a rundown of the plot of your latest
Well,
book.
The Song Before It's Sung is based on a true story, and it's the story of Adam von Trott, who was a resistor and hanged in 1944 by Hitler. But the thing that it was interesting to me was that he'd been at Oxford and he was a Rhodes Scholar. And he had a lot of friends in England, including Azar Berlin. And their relationship was very, very strange. Berlin never fully trusted him, but he rather revered Berlin and had enormous affection for Oxford. And I just thought this was interesting. I was doing it for another purpose entirely, and I saw the film of von Trott's trial, the show trial, and I thought this must be a novel. I must write it as a novel. And so I imagined their conversations and what happened, but the core of it is their relationship.
Was it difficult to write a novel based around a skeleton of fact?
Yeah, it is more difficult, and because particularly Second World War, you have to be true to certain things. You can't take liberties with this. I mean, in the end, I think it comes down to kind of artistic judgment about what's permissible and what isn't. But there are certain things you can't mess with. You can't change the facts of what happened during the war, the Holocaust. Obviously, you can't even pretend you know something that you don't know. But on the personal level between them and what happened, I have a narrator who actually is the centre of the book, and he's in modern times, and he's investigating this phenomenon.
So he's entirely fictional?
He's entirely fictional, yeah, except of course like all fiction, it's just a version of the writer.
Yeah, really?
In this case, me, yeah.
Is that true?
Yes,
Lots of writers resist that.
No, it's true, because you can't write anything except out of your own sensibility. So when any analogy you make must be something you've thought of or devised, any images. And I think that's actually the secret of good literature, that when you see, when you read an image or an idea in a book, you think that's original. I've never seen it expressed that way before, and that, to my mind, is in literary novels anyway, is the writer's main job.
So presumably you have to be terribly careful when you're doing a non-fictional character, as in this book, that you're not imbuing him with you.
You are imbuing him with you, as it
Right.
happens. There's no way around that. But in fact, behind this book, they are just loosely based, although this essence of their relationship, I think, is real. But it's still open to interpretation. Even what's on the record is very much open to interpretation. And the family of von Trott, who in my book is known as von Gottberg, the family of von Trott were pretty angry at my portrayal of him. But I don't think that I've been untrue to the essence of what
Did
happened.
that bother you, that they were unhappy?
Well, it bothered me in the sense that I didn't want to make anybody unhappy, and but it didn't bother me in the sense that if I'd felt I'd in some way cheated or done wrong or cut corners, yeah, I would have been bothered. But I'm confident that I didn't. And as I said, it's a novel, and there's something really which is sort of fictional truth that you can't get to without imagining, And it sounds like a cop-out, but I do believe in it.
Now there's a theme in certainly the last two books of yours, Oxford. You have a sort of love affair with Oxford.
Yes, I mean, only latterly. These novels, these two books are linked because I only rarely wrote about von Trott because I was going to do a little book on Oxford in the Bloomsbury's Writer and the City series, and I saw the show trial. I heard that there'd been a show trial, and I saw Trott at his trial, and the prosecutor said to him, "So your plan was to..." The prosecutor was mad, raving Nazi. It was a parody of a Nazi, raving at all of them. And they'd already been condemned to death, and they were dragged into the court wearing old clothes, and Trott just stood there very dignified. And Roland Freisler, the prosecutor, said to him, "So your plan was to deal with the Allies, and after you'd killed Hitler, killed the Führer, deal with the Allies?" And he said, "Yes, exactly. Gewiss," he said. And I thought, it's astonishing. How did he get to this point when he knew he was going to be brutally hanged very soon? What had happened, and what were his relationships back in Oxford? And I'd been interested in the Oxford myth, how Oxford has this enormous luster in the world. And I thought, and later I discovered, reading the letters from von Trott, the original of my character, that he actually had enormous and possibly even exaggerated regard for Oxford. And this myth of Oxford is a fascinating thing. So the books are linked in that sense. I do, in fact, get back to the real von Trott in the Oxford book, but the fictional von Trott is those eras when one couldn't have gone in a biography or indeed in a non-fiction book.
There seems to be a lot about the Second World War at the moment. Why is that?
Well, I think there's a very pat reason, which I think it's also probably true, but is that, you know, we're getting to the end of the point where people who are alive are still available to be,
So
and also in my case anyway, my father was in the war, you know, even some of us still have parents, or parents who recently died who were in the war. And I think as you get older you want to understand history and your own place in it.
Okay.
And in a way, when you look back to your parents' generation, you're also looking back at yourself and where you came from. So I think that's probably the reason. I mean, there's an intrinsic interest anyway in an event so astonishing and moving, and one that will never be replicated, we hope.
Will you be writing any more about the Second World War?
No, I think I've done with the Second World War. I mean, I think that it was interesting. I have written about it before, actually, as well, in a book called My Side Dreaming, but I think I've done with the Second World War.
Thank you very much. I was talking to Justin Cartwright about his novel The Song Before It Is Sung, which is published by Bloomsbury.